when you meet this tool called Atomy, and how you're going to succeed through that is dependent on the choices you make. Atomy already has a lot of evidence that has shown, and it's been used as a tool to achieve success because a lot of people have become successful through it. And they are still becoming successful. And everyone can do it, but not everyone is successful. It depends on what you do. And I'm sure a lot of you are unfamiliar with the concept of becoming successful and how you achieve being successful. And I'll tell you a little secret. It's really easy. All you have to do is doing everything you can do. And you'll be familiar and you'll be good at it. People say that it doesn't work, that it's too hard, or that they won't do it. But there are people who haven't really tried. So the best way to do business is hitting it and just doing it. But when you go and you don't really know what to tell them about, there's a trick as well. Just say whatever. Just say anything, and some they might answer, some you might not answer. You might learn what they want to ask. And you'll learn what they actually want to learn by just saying anything. It's like learning about riding a bike. You can't really ride a bike by learning the theories behind it. You can't just learn by reading it. Everyone knows that you have to turn your handle towards when you're falling, but not everyone knows unless they try it physically. Even if you don't know the concept, you can still ride a bicycle. Do you think there's anyone who can ride a bike without falling? That's just not possible. You sometimes fall over, you scrape your knees, and you trip. And that's the fastest way to learn it. It's by falling off the bike multiple times. When you get hit by reality more times, you learn more. Someone called me and they said, I told someone about what you told me and they didn't trust me. And this old elderly woman picked up the phone. So I asked what the problem was, and they said, the neighbor, elderly neighbor, they said that a nuclear power plant made cosmetics, and about how our CEO talked about it. And I was explaining how that doesn't make sense, like that's not what I said. And then I kind of just like cleared it up. I said that it wasn't a nuclear power plant, but a research center. And they thanked me. Then I talked to the elderly woman again, and I explained it. And she was like, oh, that's the same thing to me. But that man, he started doing Atomy business, and that line grew, and that elderly woman became successful. So whatever it is, power plant, a research institution, whatever it is, just tell people whatever you want to tell them. And something might just catch an interest, and you're not going to get lost for anything. And then you could also learn from these situations. And as long as you do this, you'll be successful. So Atomy business works. And whatever you have now, it will be more successful in the future. It's the determination to succeed that's most important. It's not, most people don't have this mindset. They don't have the dedication, and that's why people don't succeed. You have to be ready to be successful. But not many people know what's considered successful. So they'll be like, oh, I'll make 3K, 7K a month. Oh, but like, is that really being wealthy? Is that really being successful and rich? I mean, some people might think, oh my god, that's great, that's what I want. I can see it by your expressions. But if you learn that much, that's not success. If you send your kids to college and all that, you don't have anything prepared for your future. You're only having debt. And after 7K, that's when you have some breeding ground. But you're not living a life like a human. You're not living a decent life. You give your parents some allowance money of like 3K to 4K. Then how are you going to do that if you only make 3 to 7K? You need more money as you get older. It's because they're going to be sick. They need more people to take care of them, and caregivers and hospital fees. So you need to think about what success is and why a lot of people don't succeed. And tonight, I'll tell you about how to be successful. I'll tell you the methods for it. Most people start from 0 and they study until the age of 30. And then from 30 to 60, they work to be successful. And from 60 to 90, they live up until then. And this is called retirement years. But there's a scary rumor that's going around that people are going to live until 120. Oh, this is a big problem. This period is called a disaster. Crisis. Living life with no money is a catastrophe. You're going to be vulnerable, and without money, you're not going to have anything to do. So you're not going to be frustrated from your body to your mind. But even when people study for 30 years and prepare for this, and they work for 30 years, they still don't have money for retirement. From statistics, only 1% of people become successful. 4% become financially independent. They weren't wealthy, but they didn't have to ask others for money. The remaining 70%, they were jobless and they didn't have any money for their retirement. Even though the stats are from a different country and it's also very old, but you get the idea of what it's trying to say. So when people study for 30 years and work for 30 years, they wake up early and they go to bed really late working, but only 5% of the people succeed and most of the people, so 95%, fail. And people wonder why this happened. And one person who paid attention to this was Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie was born into a poor family, and he thought, could I be really successful again even if I was born to a poor family? And he thought and he believed that even if he was born into a poor family 10 times, he was going to be successful 10 times, that he was going to be successful every single time. So how did he get this confidence? It was because he knew the law of success. He knew how to be successful. And he believed that 95% of the people didn't know about the law of success. And that is why they weren't able to succeed. What is the common idea of people who become successful? What do I need if I want to achieve success? So Carnegie already knew the law of success and he wanted to share this with people. And so he organized what he knew about the law of success. Law of success is similar to the laws of nature. It's not about how you could make a law by just anyone just coming up with it. It was already predetermined. You would succeed if you just went along with it. It's like the same thing as law of farming. It's like law of farming and law of nature. And you need to farm according to these laws to become successful. You can't just be successful by planting anything. And they have to I'll be explaining these two. What's the first thing that a farmer has to do? It's about having how much of what he's going to harvest in his mind before he plants it. If he wants 2 bags of rice, what kind of rice would what kind of seeds would he need? Rice. What about if he needed peanuts? He can't be just planting rice because that would fail. So he knew how much of what he wanted to harvest. That's what he first had in mind. And with that in mind, he was able to control all the decisions. So if you are thinking about being successful, you need to first draw out an image of the life you want. Let's say you have a building. There's this building and it was built 10 years ago. But this building was made where you can't even see. Where do you think that is? It was built in the architect's mind beforehand. How it was going to be 5 stories or 2 stories. And it was only possible to do 2 stories. So he built a 2-story house in his mind already. And then he drew a blueprint and gave it to a construction company. And the construction workers followed that and the building was built. So before this building was built, it was built inside the mind of the architect. So you have to draw out your successful life beforehand. So how you're going to be successful, how you're going to look successful. It's a pretty complicated question, right? It's complicated is because we are complicated. We have a complicated nature. We have the body or flesh. And within this flesh, we have spirit and soul. And we also are surrounded by the environment. So these 4 things is what makes a human. This flesh is not really who we are. It's like a house you live in. Our true essence is in our spirit and soul. Flesh is just a house the soul and spirit live in. Flesh, our body, is about living a long, healthy, luxurious life. So it's about living well. And our spirit has its own desires as well. And it desires living ethically and according to our conscience. And it wants the eternal life. It's about the time and concept of time. But the way to differentiate spirit and soul is by soul is something you can control, like emotions and knowledge and something you learn. And these are something you can decide. You can throw a fit and then be okay. You could control whether you laugh or cry. And about what you want to memorize and what you want to keep in your mind. But spirit doesn't exist in animals. They have a soul. They can memorize things, remember things. You could also teach animals. You could train your dogs. And they also got feelings. They get angry if you touch them when you're trying to eat. You could see their delight in their tails, and they have emotions. But they don't really have conscious for animals. If your dog bit your neighbor's leg, do you think they feel guilty in their conscience? Do you think they get sad that they didn't hold back? You're never gonna find something like that because animals don't really have a conscious and they don't have a concept of time.
When we grow old, we worry about our end. In the Bible, it states that He has also set eternity in the human heart. Eternity is related to the concept of time, right? The spirit understands the concept of time, and if you truly want to fulfill its desires, you need to know our Creator. You need to know why you are living and why you were born. Therefore, we need to love and be loved by our Creator, which we summarize as to love. Furthermore, our soul wants to live a peaceful life, and it has a desire for knowledge, which means we need to learn. In terms of our social and surrounding environment, we have a desire to contribute in life with something beneficial. We need to achieve all of these things. If you can't attain all these desires, you will have regrets on your deathbed. For example, if you didn't have a healthy life, would you be full of regrets? Of course you would. If you live a short life and died at 30, you are bound to be full of regrets. It would be the same if you died poor and never got to live a luxurious life. What if you live a life that went against your conscience? You are going to have a deep resentment. If you died after always being angry and hating everyone, or you didn't accomplish anything, and died without doing anything beneficial, you're going to have some type of regret or resentment. So you must live a life that will fulfill the desires of your flesh, spirit, soul, and environment. You need to live that kind of life and set your goal to do so. A life where you are able to satisfy all four areas is known as a balanced life. Again, this is called a balanced life. So when you are setting your life goals and picturing your successful life in your mind, all four of these areas must be equally satisfied. Repeat after me. Balanced life. Live well, love, learn, and contribute in life. It is important for you to envision this kind of life. You will create this image in your mind. Actually, these four areas are connected to each other. The flesh desires to live well. The spirit wants love. You need to memorize this. Even if I tell you not to study, you have to at least learn this concept. The soul wishes to learn. This is quite simple. The environment desires to contribute in life. These four elements are intertwined with each other. They might not look like much if they are separated. That's when people say, what good is living well? Or why do I need to know that? Now, the reason why you must live well is because you have people that you love. To do that, you need to learn. With what you learn, you would make contributions. They are all linked and related to with each other. If you don't live well, it's hard on your children, and your parents will be distressed. Since all of these are associated with one another, love can fall apart if you don't live well. Many people say they get a divorce due to conflicting personalities, but when you look into it, the main cause is actually money. Let's say a husband brings home $30,000 a month. Would you divorce him because you're having different personalities? Would you separate with someone who make $50,000 a month because of personality differences? No one would do that. If the wife continuously earned $50,000 a month, no husband would file for divorce due to personality differences. People don't separate because of the differences in their personalities. It's because of money. I love my wife very much. I had to chase her for a year before I could marry her, and we lived well for a while. And the company I worked 17 years for, I couldn't really guarantee my life after retirement, so I opened my shopping mall, and the business was too ahead of its time, and it was not working. So I had to close the business, and when a company fails, not only you lose your asset, but you lose your health as well. So I had to pay all the unpaid ones. I had to pay all the employees and overdue tax, and I didn't have enough to pay all these things. So I was credit and tax delinquent, and I had to move into a small renter house. And not only did my liver disease got worse, and I had more severe diabetes, like glucose level more than 400. And my doctor friend told me that I shouldn't be working, and he said it was too late for him to help me and I need to go a bigger hospital. And I went there and received some treatment. Since I couldn't work and didn't have money, what can I do? Well, with the money my wife earned, we had to pay for the rent and pay for my children's tuition. And do you know how much a woman in their 50s can earn? Is $1,500, like 12 or $1,500. That's it. Since we were trying to live on the $1,500 income, our house was really cold in the winter. Whenever I came home, I tried to stay strong. Hey honey, let's turn on the heater. We shouldn't save money when we don't have any. After hearing this, my wife would say this, you don't think I'm cold? And my wife was telling me like, if you are making good money, I can turn on the heater. I'm freezing because you cannot make good money. I was actually telling her this for a different reason. I'm someone who believes that you shouldn't save money when you don't have it. Don't save money when you only make a little. You should just use it all because it's not much. When you don't have much, it's better to spend it and live a little more comfortably. You won't become rich by saving that little amount. So when should you save? You save when you are making good money. When you are making 30, 50K dollars as lawyer and master, then you should save some money so that you can make some preparations for your retirement. That's when you can actually save money. You also shouldn't budget your expenses based on your income. Rather, you should first calculate the expenses for your desired life. And you must determine whether or not a certain job or business can accommodate your expenses. Let's say you figured out you need $20K a month because there's some housekeeper, right? Someone to cook for you, and you should be giving some money for your parents, and you need to give your children good education. So without $20K, $30K, you cannot do that. So you need to find something that earns you at least $30K because $20K will not be enough. So you need to be a person who makes $30K a month. So first set the expenses for a month, then find the job that can earn that money for you. And if the job doesn't make that money, you shouldn't be doing that. Since we all have people that we love, we all have loved ones, so we need to be successful. Even though I love my wife, I did whatever I could to marry her, and we started to argue when we didn't have money. After 3 years of that, my wife said this to me one day. Honey, let's separate once the children graduate. Now, my wife is a person who says what she will do. When I heard her say this, I lost strength in my legs and I just fell to my knees and I grabbed onto my wife's leg and started crying. I think I was like crying for about 20 minutes. I told her, I cannot let you go. You don't have a house to live in, nor any retirement fund, so what would you do? Just wait until I buy you a home and prepare retirement funds for you. I can't let you go like this, so please wait until then. My wife looked at me and said, when? Like in 1,000 years? And now I have bought her a nice house and gave her retirement money, but she hasn't told me when she's leaving. So if you want to love the people you like, then you need to live really well. Back then, I was so ill, I couldn't move. I got so tired. After 3 to 4 hours, I lost like 45 pounds and I had a lot of wrinkles on my neck. It was really difficult time for me. I didn't know what to do. It felt like I was trapped in a cave that's really pitch black, and when you get to that point, you will be really afraid to have courage. It becomes difficult to find any courage to succeed. You fear that you might fail and fall back down into despair, so it's hard to make that determination. Although it felt like I was trapped in this dark cave, I could still a little light at the entrance of the cave. So I had to have this hope. The best way to have when you don't have any is to have hope. If you don't have any hope in times like this, there's no way for you to escape from this despair. I did whatever I could to have hope. I told myself I can stand up again, and I can protect my family. I can be healthy again. Even though there was only a trace of light at the entrance of the cave, I had to get up and walk towards it despite the difficulties, and as I headed towards the entrance, the ray of hope slowly got bigger. Eventually, I got out of the cave and I was able to step into a world that was filled with the light of hope. When you feel like you were trapped in despair, where you feel like you cannot do anything, where you're surrounded by all these obstacles and challenges, you must do whatever it takes to head towards that little light. You're not doing the work you do because you are 100% sure that you can succeed. If you think there is even like 1% possibility and think that it won't work 99% of the time, you have to forget about the 99% and walk towards the 1% of success. Once you go towards that light, it will slowly and gradually become bigger, and it will become like 2%, 3%, and the possibility will only grow. It's imperative that you have this hope because of the loved ones. You must never give up here. Rather, you need to stand up again and get to a point where you can share your love with your loved ones. Anyway, you have to make a movie, and it needs to be continuously playing in your mind. You'll be the main character in this film. You're also the director and the scenario writer, and it will look something like this. There will be smaller circles surrounding this big circle, and in one of the smaller circles, you will write one thing that will allow you to live well. For living well, you should have health, right? And for a luxurious life, people tend to want a better house. Nowadays, yeah, we need a car. It can be quite expensive. What else? We have love.
And you also have to go travel, go on family trips, and you also have to learn. And you might have children and their education and studying. And about contributing, you could write volunteering. So there's 10 ticks around this circle, and you will be evaluating your current health out of 10. You might give it a 5. And for housing, you have a house that you might be wanting in the future, and you have to compare it to the house you currently live in. If you want a house that's way bigger than what you have now, and if you're living in a rented house, you might give it a 2. And for traveling, if you want to travel overseas at least once a year, but you haven't been able to do it for 10 years, then you'll be giving yourself a 1. And once you finish, you'll connect the dots, and that will give you a shape for your wheel of life. If it's small or jagged, your life isn't doing well. You gotta figure out a way to make it all a perfect 10. And once it is a perfect 10, it'll be a big round circle and it will roll really well. And if this is the dream you want, you have to fill out these boxes. And one more thing, you have to write down your plan for your rank as well, a deadline for each rank. And your senior members will know what to tell you and you can fill this out. So you gotta do what you can do now and live a balanced life. People are gonna think, oh, why are you going to Success Academy when you're gonna hear the same thing every day? These are people who give up. So you have to come here every month. People who don't miss a seminar, they're the ones who succeed. So when you're learning, you have to continue because there's going to be times when you get tired. People who've been to the Success Academy, they'll envision making 30K and having a big house, about having a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW. But once they leave, they come back to reality. And they'll think, oh, what about a 2,490 square feet house? How am I going to pay that when I have a rental that I can't even pay off? I don't even have gas money for my car. How am I going to get a Mercedes? I was crazy in there, and then they just forget about it. And that's when you fail. When you come back to reality and you wake up from your dreams, that's when you fail. As humans, we have a tendency to snap back to reality. So what should you do? You have to come back to the Success Academy, and you have to remake your dreams and visions, and you have to strengthen your willpower to stand firm on it. So you have to come every month, and you have to rewrite it every single time. Every single time you came, if you came last month, you should write it again this time. And you have to polish your dreams. And you have to create your vision as a crucial part of your success. You can't have a vision without confidence. You can't even tell someone, you can't even tell yourself. You have to tell everyone about your dream, because you're the only one who thought about it, and that just easily disappears and dissipates, and you just get rid of it. So you have to declare your vision. So everything you wrote down here, you have to share it with your family. You have to tell them, I'm gonna get a house that's 2,490 square feet house. You want a Mercedes-Benz, right? I'll get you one, but help me for 3 years. This is a vision that you should share with other people. You can't just keep it to yourself. So you have to turn this movie into your reality. And this is the law of success for Atomy success system. And this is how a successful person achieved their dreams. This is how they all achieved. You must imagine the life you want to live and play it like a movie. Your vision of earning 30K a month or 50K a month. You have to have that in your head, and you have to be crazy to succeed. You need to be crazy to be fanatical about your dream. Repeat after me. Achieve it, then you can succeed. If you can't, you won't achieve. And I hope all of you can become crazy. And I hope you don't come back to your senses. And I'll end it on that. Thank you.